Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I am not late. I am precisely on time. Show was scheduled for 8:40. It is currently just turned 8:41, but not before I went live. So, this show is a Flawed Man of God. I am your host, Stuart Davis. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. Not a pastor, not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, talk about the Bible, talk about a wide variety of current events, topics, and issues, and give you my perspective on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. Don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it better each day. Sometimes I'll get it right. Many times I'll get it wrong. But either way, you're going to get honest takes from me uh, whenever I'm streaming. So if you're somebody who is interested in learning more about God, if you are curious about Christianity and what following Jesus is like and all about. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here, and hopefully you can take this show, this program, for what it is, a very layperson approach to faith. Um, we are very open here about talking about things and trying to educate in a way that you would normally find talking to somebody that you sit next to in the pew at church. And I try to be a welcoming person and a good ambassador of the faith as well as I can be. Say as well as I can be because I'm not the best at it. But it is a relaxed, comfortable format, one that's open to receiving any questions that you have. I may not have the answers for them. Like I said, I'm not a professional, but perhaps that honest, been here a long time, but just don't do it as a job approach might come across as more honest to you, might come across as more down to earth. And that's what I'm striving for. And so if you've got anything that you'd like to know, please let us know. We've got a great chat. Welcome. And you're welcome to be a part of that. And I will respond to you, especially as small as our community is right now. If you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and discussions, welcome as well. Glad to have you here. Also, want to point you towards the chat. It's great. We got a lot of regulars who come in here night in and night out. Great folks. And um, we treat it very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. We try to get it to know each other, try to be open, and encourage others to do so as well. So if you have anything that you'd like to share on whether you are just interested in learning more or you've been a Christian for a while and perhaps you know more than me, um, I do encourage you to give me your 2 cents worth. Maybe you have some knowledge, some experience, some insights. Maybe what we're talking about hits you a different way than how I'm explaining it. Maybe you think what I'm saying is wrong. Whatever it is, put it in there, right? Put it in there, and like I said, we will read and respond to it. That's the great thing about this chat. You guys make this show so much better day in and day out. So without further ado, let's get the show started. Yesterday was the grand return of me to the show. Um, it is becoming more of a grand return of this beard. But right now, it's just a bunch of whiskers right now. So we're going to see how long it takes to get to a length that the chat is much more comfortable with. Dresden, who has not checked in yet, has definitely made definitely made it known um, he does not approve of the clean-shaven look. And so now, and as Emmanuel says, welcome as well, Emmanuel. I haven't talked to you in a while. So now it's time to slowly regrow the wizard beard. It's not going to be that long. Not for a long time, I don't think. It was, I didn't mind it in some aspects, but in other respects, it requires more maintenance than I care to deal with. I like it at about a 3-inch length or shorter. And not this short, not this short, but between 1 and 3. And you'll see me alternate between those. But I'm going to be a much more kempt appearance because those of you who don't know, and none of y'all knew this beforehand, whenever I have a child on the way and I'm expecting a kid, my wife is pregnant, I do not cut my hair or shave my beard. It's a tradition that goes back 3 kids ago. But in this case, it was much longer because, as I explained a couple of Fridays ago, we did experience 2 miscarriages right in a row, and this latest edition actually came sooner sooner than we expected. And I just never got around to going ahead and shaving the beard. It was, that was kind of one of those things that sometimes you just don't like closing the book on things. And then before I got around to it, the next pregnancy occurred, and then that miscarried, and then the next pregnancy occurred, and this one lasted the full term. And so you got about a year's worth of growth from me, maybe a little bit more, maybe 13 months of growth from me. My hair is and beard have never been that long before in my life. And I passed the never in my life has my hair been that long about month 9. So so once I did that, I had the kids buzz my hair and shave the beard off. I came back afterwards with the razor as I've been uh, I've been doing my thing. And so, much to everybody's surprise and some of our chagrin, I came out with no beard 2 weeks ago. But it's good to be back. MR finally made it. Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Emmanuel said, hang on, mouse isn't cooperating tonight. Said, we're back. Oh, yeah. Glad to see everything is good. Finally had the chance to catch a stream. Yeah, see, Stu was late. I'm not. Almost was. I was about 10 seconds from being a minute late. I'll be driving soon, so I will talk when I can right now. Emmanuel, safe travels, happy driving, and watch out for all the knuckleheads on the road. Godspeed. MR said, finally made it. Sorry I've been so busy, dude. MR, if you haven't tuned in a show in over a week, it's not because there was shows going on. It's because I myself was in the hospital with my wife. I went through this over this yesterday. We had some complications, but we had a great hospital staff that helped us through it, and we were able to. I and our very, very newborn daughter were able to stay with my wife and keep her company and cheer her up as she was going through some very scary complications. Very scary complications, but things are on the mend. She was out in the, she was up, and she's been up and moving around, and and it seems that we are past it and well on the way to settling down into the normalcy of having a newborn kid, which is not really the most normal thing out to do out there. But when you've done it a couple of times, it feels like you feel old. It feels old hat. Everything is fine now, MR, but it was worrisome for a while, and I asked for prayers, and I know I got some from you guys. And so, look, this is good. So last night we had a lot of regulars return, which is what I always worry about is that um, when I take these breaks. Last time I did a break this long, it was because I had COVID. But when I take these breaks, that folks might drift off and find something else to do. And that's a little possessive of me, I guess, but I like you guys. I like my viewers. I like my chat. I want them to continue to come in. Um, and it's always I'm always flattered by um, by the fact that people are willing to tune in and day out and listen to me ramble on and on about God. There are people out there, I think, who are better than me at this, but I think what I try to do is create an environment where everybody's kind of got a place to talk, and crack jokes and be involved, right? Give everybody kind of a chance to put their 2 cents worth in. Feel free to ask a question and not be afraid to be told, I don't know, or give you kind of a what I'm thinking and hear what you guys have to say as well. And without a bunch of castigating, people looking down their nose at you or calling you. Oh, yeah. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had to pass off the baby monitor that I had earlier. um, but not give an environment where you're worried about being looked down on as what, you don't know that? Or maybe talk to you like a college professor would. That's not my style. That's not my speed. And I don't think that's other people's speed. I think what a lot of people want to hear is honesty. This is what I think. This is what I believe. I'm not sure if I'm right about it or not. There are other places to go if you really want to be scholarly. Guy, I'll point you to all day long is the other Paul, who is also on YouTube, who is a very bright young Australian, which means he's a Fed. Let's be honest with you. The other Paul, but man, who's gone through a lot of self education in his theology and done so earnestly, honestly. He's reformed, which I am not. Um, and he has opinions that perhaps you might agree with or disagree with. But what you're going to get from him is a very solid, this is why I believe things. And I think that he does a great job at explaining that to people. And you'll find that he is much more scholarly than I am. So those are that he him. There are some other sources as well. One of the funny things, another reformed podcast called Bible Bashed out there. They were on my show one point. Once we were talking about cancel culture was the um, cancel culture was the topic, and they are very steadfast in what they're thinking, and and very unafraid to ask questions that might be maybe people will feel uncomfortable. Sometimes they ask questions or have perspectives that I disagree with, but one of the things I do enjoy about them is that they're not afraid to back up what they think with scripture. They're not afraid to bring up tough to handle topics. Sometimes it's a little tongue in cheek. What I will say about them is sometimes I don't know if they're being funny, and sometimes I don't know if they're dead serious. But they're good dudes. They came on this, and one of the things they were talking about today that I enjoyed was where is the here it is. So this tweet that they put up, and I was responding to it. One of the easiest ways to get other men to lose all respect for you is to be easily offended. If you want to ruin any chance you might have of gaining it back, then explain to them why what they said, quote unquote, hurt your feelings. I don't know about the back end of that, um, but what I will say is, because it's interesting. Men, I think, especially, I can't speak for women because I'm not one, but men, I think, good, genuine men respect honesty on other things. Honesty and honor and, you know, the earnest striving to be better. That sometimes requires humility. So I think that, look, first things first. If you've got a problem with a man, take it to him 1-to-1, and that will oftentimes give you the measure of another person. You might disagree. You might not even have a great interaction with that other man. However, if you both have a disagreement and nobody goes running and tattling on the other person, you have that measured bit of respect. Or if nobody goes crying and talking about it, you handle things one-on-one. And if something has upset you, you've lost face, it happens. I think we could all say that there's been times where we've reacted poorly to something or acted less than our masculinity um, demands of us. But I think that being honest and humble about it, respectful with the other person, you can gain what he said, gain that respect back. And I think that we see that. I mean, you see that, but Blaine's on the program, right? Blaine and I, great friend of the show. Blaine and I pick on each other all the time. You guys in general pick on me all the time. I enjoy that. And you will hear me pick back at you. Men do that to each other. And I think that is just some sort of natural reaction that we give to kind of help each other through tough things. Help each other through feelings that we're having difficulty with. Because if you can laugh something off, then that means it hasn't beaten you. As long as you can smile, grin, and bear it, you're overcoming it. So I think the solution to a lot of our own problems as men that we face, things that stress us out, things that bother us, that worry us, obstacles that we face in life, if you can fall back on God, look to Scripture, and keep your sense of humor intact, you'll be all right. If you get easily offended, upset, and you make that kind of your identity, people aren't going to want to hang around you. Real men aren't going to want to hang around you at all. And you'll find yourself isolated or surrounded by other guys and ladies who behave the same way. That's a toxic place to be, right? That's a place I wouldn't want to be. So always keep your principles, your honor intact. Understand, though, when you do have moments of weakness, when your feelings get the better of you, come back to those people that you lost face in front of. Apologize and be better. Not apologize because you're trying to avoid punishment. Apologize as a measure of respect to those people. Hey, I'm sorry for what you saw. That's not part of me that I want to be. I'm going to be better going forward. Don't ever apologize to the mob, though. Apologize to who that you need to apologize in front of. The mob doesn't care. And I think that enough people in these spaces have said that. If you apologize to the mob, you're inviting the wrong kind of ridicule. If I apologize to my friends, I fully intend to hear about it for as long as it's funny, which may be forever. If I apologize to the mob, they're only going to use it to punish you. Difference is, one's meant to build you up, bring you into the fold, have those inside jokes. The other one is to push you away beat you down, and put you in submission. The nature of those two, groups defines itself. And one of the things I thought about that was, look, I've been pretty open about this before when I was in middle school and high school, even in elementary school, but I was bigger than everybody. So I would just, in elementary school, I'd just beat everybody up. When I hit puberty later in life, later in my adolescence. So when we got to middle school, I wasn't the biggest kid anymore. And I ran into, and it was a bigger school with other big kids. I quickly learned I wasn't the biggest kid out there. I immediately, first time I ever got really beat up was, a few weeks into my my 6th grade year. And it kind of stayed that way. I was sarcastic. I was sensitive. I didn't understand how to, and I was kind of isolated. It's difficult for me to make friends with people my own age. People older than me, people younger than me, I got along with fine. But people, my peers, I always struggled with. And that went from middle school up until the moment I graduated. Of course, I was in the Army at 17. So one of the best things that happened to me was I went from that environment where I was, kind of depressed. I felt lonely. I was very lonely. That's the best way to say it. Lonely, very low self-esteem, low confidence. And then all of a sudden, I'm put into basic training where all of us are maggots and we're all low men on the totem pole. And we all have to kind of work together. And you get a clean slate and a fresh start to establish things. And one of the things I am is naturally outgoing. And I was growing up, the people around me were of various ages. I was the youngest guy second youngest guy in my company, I think. Not to mention my platoon. And I learned I had a couple of guys take me under their wing and kind of mentor me, right? Guys who were in their mid-20s, older dudes to me at that point. Again, I'm 18 at this point. Kind of bring me along. I learned how to take a joke. I learned how to be ridiculed, and I understand more that you have if you can dish it out and take it. With other people who can dish it out and take it, it's a great thing, and it's a great way of dealing with your issues. Good way of dealing with your issues. At the same time, my faith in God was maturing as well, because I went from being a kid who kind of, I went to church all the time. I believed in God, but I didn't really take it as seriously as I should have, to finally understanding the gravity of faith. It was a great time. I wasn't a great person, but I was becoming a better person in growing up. And that point in the Army was probably when I was at my best, in my 20s. Why is my mouse is being really dumb today? Let me switch. There we go. That's better. All right. And I know you guys got some thoughts on this, so I'm going to read through that. MR says, nah, you could take a months-long break and I'd be back. If Fish Tank didn't take me away, you're good. Blaine's Escape Corner, I made it. Yep. Alex Moore's in the air. Welcome, Alex Moore. Oh my goodness, his beard is gone. It's coming back. It's coming back. Blaine said, reacted poorly? Yes, I also woke up today. Say what you mean with your chest, and if it offends someone, simply put these magic words. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but it's true. That, in many cases, that works. Sometimes you got to read the room, though. There are times where bluntness is appropriate, and there's also times where subtlety can work. Texan Italians here. Man, this is great. MR, that's very true. Alex Moore, apologize to the man upstairs. Always repent when you screw up. This was brought up. I'm not going to talk about the where it was brought up. Someone said guilt within Christianity, guilt is a good thing and shame is a bad thing. Shame is not biblical. Hard wrong on that one. Shame is absolutely biblical. It's all over the Bible. And not only that, it helps us grow as Christians. Guilt drives you to repent and be sorry and apologize for what you did. Shame makes you remember what you did and not want to go back to that way. I am ashamed of many things I've done in my life. I know, recognize, and realize that I've been forgiven of those sins, forgiven of that behavior. But that doesn't change the fact that I am deeply ashamed of how I acted. Deeply ashamed of the decisions I made. Because I feel ashamed of how I let God down and let myself down. It serves as a reminder to me to not go back to that. I don't want to return to the guy I was when I made those decisions. I don't want to return to the weakness that I showed. So Alex, thanks for that comment. Because that put me on the. Maybe that'll be a topic for another night. But that particularly came up recently, and I took strong exception when I heard that because I was said, no, sir. No, sir. Shame helps build us up. Shame and guilt together. They have two different they serve as two different things to help us grow and be better. Oh, man, in a sarcastic way. Blaine says, apologize for actual problems. The constant apology culture leads to sorry meaning nothing. Exactly. If your apology sounds as empty as it actually is, people are going to recognize that. Honest people are. I don't know about dishonest people. They might recognize it and just go along with it as par for the course because they do the same thing. MR says, story of my life. I hear about things I did in 6th grade. Man, that's why I stopped hanging out with people who know me from that long ago. My brother knows. Good night. Emmanuel said, but if it's genuine coming with good faith, then that's a different story. Never go back on what you say. Yeah. It goes back to the old, when a handshake meant something, right? When a man's word meant something, when it was your word was part of who you are. We can go back and talk about this. We've come across periods and points where in the Bible where it's kind of said that, and it's let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Treat people with respect. Don't be deceitful. Again, it all comes back honesty, right? Honesty. And when your honesty and your honor are a commodity to yourself, they mean something. They mean something more to you. They mean something more to someone else who treats it the same way. If I said, we're going to agree on something, and I can count on you to hold your end of the bargain, and you can count on me to hold up my end of the bargain. And if either of us fails, we know that the other person is going to do their best to make it right. There you go. Blaine, the days when mid-20s is your elder. Yeah, I remember that. Now, look, now I will straight tell you, late teens to mid to late 20s, worst, most absolute worst years of your life. When you reach your 30s and you look back, you'll learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot during those years, but there's going to be a lot of things that you look back and you go, or at least me personally, and I know other people feel the same way you look back and you go, I can't believe I behaved in that manner. I can't believe I was that childish. I can't believe I was that immature. I can't believe I survived. My worst mistakes were made then at that point in my life. The worst mistakes I've made in my life. But again, here I am now. Again, I'm not a perfect being by any means, but I'm a lot more comfortable with where I am and where I'm going and how I conduct myself. I'm gonna have my moments, but I'm older. I'm more confident and more assertive in myself. I'm not. I don't know. I've got more to show for where I've been. I've got a family and kids. I've got people who look up to me. Didn't have that back then, and I didn't understand the responsibilities of where I am now. It'll change you as you go along, and it's gradual. It gets to a point. It's just a gradual thing, and you get back to the point, and you look back, and you go, "Wow, look at how far I've come." And again, how did I survive? How did I not get killed? Emmanuel, slowly but surely, I'm learning to be human. I wasn't here yesterday because I took my mom to the theaters and a restaurant, but it's thanks to you, God, and you guys, thanks to you, God, and you guys. Last time we did that was in 2015. Hey, good on you taking your mom out to go do something special. And yeah, again, it's all a maturation process, Emmanuel. You're young, right? And that's not a knock against you at all. It's just the point you are in your life. And you're gonna realize things now as you're going through them that you're gonna use as you get older. Things you did right and things you did wrong. You're only gonna get better at doing that as you get older. Carl, stop to say hi. Thanks, Carl. What's going on, fellow Virginian? Hopefully I don't scare you off with my pasty white face. MR, all my best friends are people I met when I was 5 to 8. That's not me. It's interesting though. I always am glad to see people who have maintained long-term friendships with people. It's fun to see. It's good to see because people, I mean, you've been through so much of life with each other. And I have people that I'm very close to that I've known for about 10 years. And we talk about stuff, but we didn't go through all of our problems at the same time. We weren't there for each other when we were in dark. We are there for each other now as we go through things, but it's kind of like, man, I wish I'd there to help you out for that. We all have our paths, but it's always cool to hear about that from people. My wife for a long time was like that. Her moving away from home, and me and her moving away from where she lived, um, put a strain on that, and she now has. Again, we have friends that we're very close with other people who are in the same point of life that we are, and that's cool. I'm an only child, so they're like brothers. There you go. Dresden's here. Dresden, how do I look? By the way, when I asked if I looked younger, I don't care if I look younger or older. That's not I was just curious. All right. Half an hour in. I kind of did some of this talking because, well, I don't think it's going to be that long of a stream tonight. We'll see. We'll see where we land, but it's just there's not a lot of content here in these next two chapters, so I knew it was going to be kind of short. Plus, you guys are filtering in. It's good to have you guys here. So, one quick note. There will not be a stream tomorrow night because I have some very important business to attend to with church. I really would appreciate your prayers. A lot. Manuel said, all my friends have been people that were my neighbor when I was like 12 from middle school and high school. We still have strong friendships. They are like brothers to me. Lifelong friends are hard. This is what I have learned. You have to be intentional. Getting along is natural. You don't have to force friendship in that way. But as life kind of gets involved more, it kind of pulls you guys away a little bit. You have to be very intentional about making time to spend with them. And they have to do the same thing. If both parties are intentional about making time for each other, it's kind of like a marriage, but not that intimate. Different concept, but you have to be intentional about spending time together. Or you'll just have a friendship where, y'all will probably still enjoy each other's company, and maybe you can pick up like you left off 2 years ago. But it just won't be there. They won't be there all the time when you might need them. So like you said, lifelong friendships are hard. People change through life. They do. Sometimes that brings people closer together. Sometimes it pulls them apart. I have my best friend that I went to. I would call him my best friend that I went to Iraq with. He was my best friend in that group, and we were very close, and shared a lot of thoughts and a lot of laughs, and got in a couple fights. He stopped talking to me around the 2016 election. Unfriended me, unfriended me on Facebook, avoided me. And I don't really know why. I don't really know why. But it made me sad. Dresden said, I reckon in a week or two. Oh, hold on. I didn't read the whole chat, but it works. Lifelong friends are hard to come by, but man, they are there for you. Sorry, it broke that up, Emmanuel, so I didn't see them next to each other. Dresden popping in with his comments about my beard. Broke that up. All right, guys. So when we last left off, with Jehoshapat, King Jehoshapat of Judah. All right. He was a good king. But he made some mistakes. And I think we're going to learn about how some of those things will come to bite him in the back. Bite his descendants, I guess, is a better way. And we'll talk about that when we get there. And it won't take long to do it. But we'll go ahead and start off with chapter 21 when we talk about the end of Jehoshaphat's reign. Then Jehoshaphat rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. And Jehoram, his son, succeeding him as king. Jehoram's brothers, the sons of Jehoshaphat, was Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Azariahu, Michael, of course, and Shephatiah. All these were sons of Jehoshaphat, king of Israel. Their father had given them many gifts of silver and gold and articles of value, as well as fortified cities in Judah. But he had given the kingdom to Jehoram because he was his firstborn son. When Jehoram established himself firmly over his father's kingdom, he put all his brothers to the sword, along with some of the officials of Israel. Okay, well, that was somewhat unexpected. Jehoshaphat was a pretty good guy, as far as a leader, by all accounts. He followed in the footsteps of his father Asa, who was largely a good guy, but who made some mistakes kind of at the end of his reign and, you know, kind of lost the plot a little bit, but largely a good guy. Jehoshaphat really seemed to watch and take a good example of what made his dad a great king, and tried to avoid what made him a bad king. And I think he did that. Jehoshaphat made his own mistakes. This is not the same thing that his dad did. Jehoram just kills all his brothers and some of the officials of Israel. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. So he didn't get much time. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for he married a daughter of Ahab. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Nevertheless, because of the covenant the Lord had made with David, the Lord was not willing to destroy the house of David. He had promised to maintain a lamp for him and his descendants forever. Now, apparently Jehoram's putting it to the test. So let's focus, before we get too into it, on this part. This is what stuck out to me. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for he married a daughter of Ahab. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Why would you think, with Jehoshaphat being as honoring his doing, as Jehoshaphat being a man who wants to honor God and glorify God and do things correctly in his eyes, why would he allow for his son to marry a daughter of Ahab? Well, the answer is simple. All you have to do is go back to chapter 19. When Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, returned safely to his palace in Jerusalem, Jehu the seer went out to meet him. Should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord? Because of this, the wrath of the Lord is on you. Now he goes on further. He goes on further to talk about that God realizes that Jehoshaphat is still desires to honor God in his heart and is doing his best to do so. But what Jehu is referring to is that Ahab wanted to go to war, and he wanted Jehoshaphat and Judah at his back. Ahab's an evil king. Ahab is a king who has denied God, has abandoned him, has disrespected him greatly, to the point when Jehoshaphat asks Ahab to consult God before going into battle. Ahab goes to his pagan prophets to ask them what God to do, and they're all yes men, right? They're all yes men. Plus, apparently, God has a hand in this. But Jehoshaphat should know better. Jehoshaphat should know Ahab's not a good dude. Ahab's not somebody who God wants him associating with, unless for some reason Jehoshaphat is helping to improve Ahab. That's not what's happening here. He's just a useful tool, and we know that because Ahab later tries to set Jehoshaphat up to get assassinated by getting people to think that Jehoshaphat is actually Ahab in dress when they go into battle. So we already know that Israel and Judah, through Ahab and Jehoshaphat, enjoy a comfortable relationship, more comfortable than should be at all, more comfortable than there should be. So it makes sense that if one or all or any of Jehoshaphat's sons wish to marry any of Ahab's daughters, it wouldn't be a problem with Jehoshaphat. So, for whatever reason, doesn't make sense to me, might not make sense to you, but apparently it made sense to Jehoshaphat. And what do we get as a result of that? We get a corrupted, evil man who has likely been tempted by an evil woman. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. In the time of Jehoram, Edom rebelled against Judah and set up its own king. Well, there you go. So Jehoram went there with his officers and all his chariots. They might as well. What else are they going to do? The Edomites surrounded him and his chariot commanders, but he rose up and broke through by night. To this day, Edom has been in rebellion against Judah. Libnah revolted at the same time because Jehoram had forsaken the Lord, the God of his ancestors. He had also built high places in the hills of Judah and had caused the people of Jerusalem to prostitute themselves and had led Judah astray. So apparently Libnah didn't like that. Not to be pretty confused with the town of Ligma. Very different location. Ligma, right? Ligma balls. Jehoram received a letter from Elijah, the prophet, which said, this is the same Elijah. This is what the Lord, the God of your father, David says. You have not followed the ways of your father, Jehoshaphat, or of Asa, king of Judah, but you have followed the ways of the kings of Israel, and you have led Judah and the people of Jerusalem to prostitute themselves, just as the house of Ahab did. You have also murdered your own brothers, members of your own family, men and women, men who were better than you. So now the Lord, there we go, hang on a second. So now the Lord is about to strike your people, your son, your wives, and everything that is yours with a heavy blow. You yourself will be very ill with a lingering disease of the bowels until the disease causes your bowels to come out. Damn it, man. Well, everybody likes good news, I guess. The Lord aroused against Jehoram the hostility of the Philistines and of the Arabs, of the Arabs. The hostility of the Philistines and of the Arabs who lived near the Cushites. They attacked Judah and invaded it and carried off all the goods found in the king's palace, together with his sons and wives. Not a son was left to him except Ahaziah, the youngest. After all this, the Lord afflicted Jehoram with an incurable disease of the bowels. In the course of time, at the end of the second year, his bowels came out because of the disease, and he died in great pain. His people made no funeral fire in his honor, as they had for his predecessors. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. He passed away. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Wait a minute, guys. All right. Sorry, I was reading ahead. How about this for your epitaph? This is your epitaph in the Bible, not just the Bible, the Old Testament. So not just what the Christians read, but what the Jewish people read as well. All right, now I'm going to say this in full. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. He passed away to no one's regret and was buried in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. Yeah. Oh my gosh. He passed away. Look, I can't think of, this is off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody who gets a who gets a sign off like that. He passed away to no one's regret. Was buried in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. Dang. Oh my goodness. He was my age when he died of a bowel disease. Ugh. Pain. wonder if it was like colitis or something like that. Ugh. Well then, yeah. That's not how to be remembered. Play greedy games, get stupid prizes. Gotta catch up before we get into the next chapter. MR, yo, me too. 2016 almost killed all my friendships. Lol. Only a very small group of my friends. I've just been surrounded by a lot of like-minded people. Comes with living in a very conservative area. My best friend, Blaine says, my best friend is from middle school, plus some friends we've made along the way. Yeah, maybe Blaine's escape corner is just the friends we've made along the way. You know, maybe that's the channel. Emmanuel talking about murdering his family. That escalated fast. Yeah. Good. 8 years. You kill your brothers. You do a lot of dumb stuff. You get beaten by the Philistines and the Arabs. They take off with your wives and sons. Then you die a miserable, agonizing death, and your people have zero compassion for you or sympathy for you whatsoever. In fact, they basically throw you in Potter's Field and wish that they'd never known you. All right. Chapter 22. Maybe the next guy will be better. So let's read it. Ahaziah, king of Judah. Okay, remember, he is the youngest son of Jehoram. He was the only one to survive the pillaging of Jerusalem. The people of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, Jehoram's youngest son, king in his place, since the raiders who came with the Arabs into the camp had killed all the older sons. So they killed them. So Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. What do you think about that, Ron? Not very impressive, huh? Ron, by the way, guys, right here, not giving me a very impressed face. He's not impressed with Ahaziah's 1 year of rule of Judah. He reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother's name was Athaliah, a granddaughter of Omri. He too followed in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother encouraged him to act wickedly. His mother, Jehoram's wife, who was a daughter of Ahab, you want to say, what was the thing? These hoes ain't loyal? She seems very loyal to her dad and acting wickedly. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord as the house of Ahab had done. For after his father's death, they became his advisors to his undoing. He also followed their counsel when he went to hold on. The house of Ahab became his advisors to his undoing. He also followed their counsel when he went with Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, to wage war against Hazael, king of Aram, and Ramoth Gilead. The Arameans wounded Joram, so he returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds they had inflicted on him at Ramoth in his battle with Hazael, king of Aram. There you go. Then Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to Jezreel to see Joram, son of Ahab, because he had been wounded. Through Ahaziah's visit to Joram, God brought about Ahaziah's downfall. When Ahaziah arrived, he went out with Joram to meet Jehu, son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to destroy the house of Ahab. While Jehu was executing judgment on the house of Ahab, he found the officials of Judah and the sons of Ahaziah's relatives who had been attending Ahaziah, and he killed them. Jehu's not playing around. He then went in search of Ahaziah, and his men captured him while he was hiding in Samaria. He was brought to Jehu and put to death. They buried him, for they said he was a son of Jehoshapat, grandson, but yeah. He was a son of Jehoshapat, who sought the Lord with all his heart. So there was no one in the house of Ahaziah powerful enough to retain the kingdom. So how do you go? How do you go from that? When Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she proceeded to destroy the whole royal family of the house of Judah. But Jehoshapat, the daughter of King Jehoram, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the royal princes who were about to be murdered, and put him and his nurse in a bedroom. Because Jehoshapat, there we go, the daughter of King Jehoram and wife of the priest Jehoiada, was Ahaziah's sister, she hid the child from Athaliah so she could not kill him. He remained hidden with them at the temple of God for 6 years, while Athaliah ruled the land. I'm sure Judah was in great hands with Athaliah, mother of Ahaziah, ruling. Yee. Things went from semi-functional, going all right, to falling apart in one generation. All it took was Jehoshaphat's son marrying a daughter of Ahab. Mind you, that's also a daughter of Jezebel, likely, in all likelihood. There you go. Things aren't looking good in Judah, but they can also turn. As here's the long and short of it, folks. And I think that, and I don't know if you guys have picked up on this yet. If you have, awesome. If not, maybe ponder this. It seems like it doesn't take long for either Judah or Israel to fall into sin. But what we can see here is that just as quickly as they can fall into sin, a good leader can bring them out of it. It's the same way with us. It doesn't take it might not take much to get us to sin and to get us to fall down and be in a bad place, in a place where we are disappointing God, we are upsetting him with our terrible acts and deeds and attitudes. But just as quickly we can repent, change our ways, and do a better job living the life that he's given us. And there you go. All right. Well, I told you there wasn't a whole lot of content for tonight, but I think that's interesting to note, right? Why did things go so bad so quickly for Jehoshaphat's line? And it seems just marrying a woman who is going to be a bad influence is all it takes for that in this case. And that Jehoshaphat, again, because a lot of these marriages were arranged or they had to have the blessings of both families, which Jehoshaphat would have been head of. Jehoshaphat sort of said, no, Ahab's a bad dude. His daughter is either just like him or just like Jezebel. Both of them are bad. Both of them are evil. Both of them don't care a lick about God or his commandments. You will not marry this girl. You need to find somebody else. You need to find some good Judean girl who is going to help keep you accountable and fulfill that support role that good women know how to fulfill. And when they are doing what they're supposed to do, and as men are doing what we're supposed to do, there's nothing stronger. There's no stronger marriage. Instead, he gets corrupted. This really gives. I've told y'all about my epic ratioing that I received when I talked about how it's okay to marry a woman or even date a woman who is not a believer, because the Bible does talk about unequal yoking, right? And I've heard stories, and I know a couple myself, stories where people men who are believers marry a woman, or vice versa, who is not a believer, and and it pulls them away. As Hans Feeney well said, it's like driving with your feet. Yeah, you might be able to get away with it. That doesn't mean it's a safe thing to do. I'm lucky enough that I stayed true to my beliefs, matured more in them, and that my wife saw that, was seeking that in her life, and followed in my footsteps, and came to church, and is in a great spot because of that. I would be a wreck if she didn't make it out of our latest hospital trip. If she had not made it out of there, I would be a wreck. I would be beside myself. I would be absolutely devastated by the loss of her. But one of the things that would give me comfort is that she is deeply devout in her faith and serious about it, and that she would be walking through the gates of heaven, and experiencing paradise without me. Which, if you ask her, might be that might be paradise, to get a little bit of break from that. So yeah. Damn, being a son husband is the worst. Even in the Bible, it shows you. Yeah. Mr. Ooh, that's where Jezebel comes from. Yes. Yes. And maybe you missed those passages when we were reading them in Kings about Jezebel, daughter of, or wife of Ahab. She is a villain. She is one of the villains in the Bible. Jezebel is more of a villain, or more prolific villain than Ahab is, because she lives longer than him. And she's really pulling a lot of the strings. And now I'm going through this phase where the scruff is just long enough where I can just, stroke it back and forth, like in a pondering sense. All right, guys. Let's close up shop. All right, Mr. Emmanuel, Blaine. Happy streaming tonight, Blaine. Drive safe, Emmanuel. I know you will, but just be careful out there. Dresden, get some rest. Carl, keep stopping by to say hi. Always glad to see you checking in. Alex Moore, glad to have you pop in. Texan Italian. Good. And that's it tonight. Glad to have you guys pop in. There's a reason, there's a reason why it's called the Jezebel spirit. Glad to have you guys stop by. Thank you for popping in, for your words, for your comments, for what you share with me. Again, like I said at the beginning, and like I say often, you guys make the show better. I can't express that enough. I'm glad that I've got your ears and your participation each and every day in some capacity or another. To those of you who are listening, being wallflowers, commenting, or may not just maybe listening on in the road or at work or whatever, and can't comment. Just glad to have you tune in. And to those listening on the replay, can't wait to catch you live. Everybody have a very good night. No stream tomorrow night, but everybody have a very good evening. Good night, and God bless.